Welcome to another empowering episode of O Jackie O podcast. I am Jackie O. In this episode, we are joined by the incredible Modupé Congleton, a global executive, a girl mom, and now the visionary behind the newly launched clothing brand Finally Free. Her brand is more than fashion, it's a movement, a mindset, a mission to help people embrace their true selves beyond trauma, expectations, and limitations. We dive into what it means to be finally free, the juggle between motherhood and leadership, and how healing can become a brand in itself. Get ready for a real, raw, and inspiring conversation that will challenge you to let go of what's holding you back and step boldly into who you're becoming. Hi, Madupe. How are you?
Hi, Jackie. How are you? I'm so excited to be here with you all.
Excited to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. So let's jump right into it. What inspired you to create Finally Free, and what does the name mean to you personally?
Yeah, so I'll let me start with the what inspired me to create Finally Free. 2023 was a pretty pivotal year for me and my family.
Mm.
And my best friend, she lost her son. He was 16-year-old. He was also my godson to cancer, a very rare form of cancer.
Wow.
And during that time, our family, as we all rallied around each other, as you can imagine, we've been friends for over 25 years. I'm a mom of four girls. She has three children. So they have grown up like siblings. And, it was that moment where I had this sort of out of body experience watching how our family was navigating through just overcoming what was a debilitating grief. And as we know, you can imagine losing a family member, but a child that's the heartbeat of the family, of the entire family, um, it cuts differently.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found myself in this space where there was something that was just starting to sort of pull at my soul.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a woman of a certain age, there are other things that begin to happen, like perimenopause, and
Yeah.
you're like, what is happening to me, right? And I
Right.
feel so good about even being able to say that piece right
Mm-hmm.
there, because thanks to Oprah for having that special. I don't know if you saw that special. It was
I can't
not
wait
my
to.
my God, it was game changing. But it was so many different things that were beginning to happen in my life internally. And I felt as though I needed to break free. But
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't quite clear on what I was breaking free from. And so there were just different things that continue to surround me, whether it was feeling like that stirring of, I got to get away, I got to break out, I got to break free, something's got to give. And then finally, I reached this moment where professionally, I exited corporate. I was an executive at Amazon. And during that time of exiting corporate, I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine, and she encouraged me to just dream for whatever this next chapter was going to be. It was all about the dream. And so when she said to me, she said, forget your credentials, forget all of your experience. But if you just got a chance to dream about what you want to do, something you always imagine doing, what would that be? And so I spent some time thinking about it. And for anyone that knows me, I'm pretty fashion obsessed. I love style, I love fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, you know what? Let me see what it would feel like to, jump into fashion design. I still
Mm-hmm.
kick myself every day because I can't believe that I did it.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't just about creating something that was fast fashion.
Mm-hmm.
It was truly about continuing the mission of purpose driven work. In my time in corporate, I was a diversity executive, and as you can imagine, when you've traveled all over the world, having the opportunity to interact with and impact thousands and, virtually millions of people, you really begin to understand what it means to understand legacy
Mhm.
and to be an inspirational leader. And I wanted to continue that body of work. And so as I pivoted to fashion, it's what is the type of work that I could tie the purpose of what I want to do, which is inspire and impact, but also the journey of inclusion and people feeling seen. And that's where the brand, the name Finally Free, I had this moment where, as I'm in therapy and we're all doing all the things to be together, to pull ourselves up, and to make sure that we are the community that
Mhm.
we need in order to make it through this. I I remember sitting down one day on my sofa and I just like took this very freeing exhale,
Mhm.
and my soul felt free in that moment. And
Mhm.
so that's where Finally Free came from. I started to understand that I could not only take a step back, try to understand what was it that was holding me back from
Mhm.
whatever that holding me back from what, like what's the end goal? But then from there, start to do the work, whether it's through therapy, it's reading, community, etc. And feel as though that I can be free to live a vulnerable, loving, grateful life because I now know what it feels like to wake up every day and be thankful that I can smile and say, I'm thankful for the people that are in my life. I'm thankful for the lessons learned. But I can celebrate the good, the bad, the mistakes, the paper cuts, all of those things. I can celebrate those things through Finally Free.
How was that transition from corporate to being an entrepreneur? How was that transition? I know that. Was that finally free?
You know what? This is what's interesting about Finally Free is I just had this thought this morning is that the journey is so continuous
Mhm.
that it is the transition was one where, I had to acknowledge that growing up as someone, I learned that we were never really taught. I mean, maybe you were taught this in your community growing up, but I never saw my mom take off. I never saw my dad take off. My dad was an entrepreneur. And I never saw anyone say, Hey, Madupe, it's okay for you to take time off from work.
Mhm. Right.
Never knew that. Right. And so what ended up happening with the transition was I took some time off to be with me. I took
Mhm.
maybe 2 months off. And during that time was where I started to reflect on who I am as a woman that's also getting older. My hair is graying, right? Things aren't looking the way they used to. But the transition of not being busy every second of the day, Jackie, was hard
Mhm.
for me because when you're in corporate, if you're an executive, you spend a significant amount of time in meetings. You spend a significant amount of time, leading people, telling others what to do and guiding different things. And the bigger the initiative, the bigger the project, the bigger the budget, that's where you associate your value. And in that transition, I had to unlearn that busyness doesn't equal value.
Right. And that's the
And
lesson in it, right? That's what
yeah,
I love. And that's
that was one of the biggest lessons for me that I realized I can be extremely productive and having 3 meetings in one day, getting straight to the business and not needing to be in 14 30-minute meetings to then jump on a call in between those meetings, run and try to grab food, then figure out what I'm going to cook for dinner that night, jump up and do it all over again. It's like a hamster wheel.
mhm. I saw that you said you were in your transformation era, and you
Yes.
said that you are dedicating your reinvention to your grandmother. Tell us about
Mm,
this means to you and what
yeah.
it meant to you.
Yeah, so thank you for this question because I love talking about her. I think so many of us in our community, we have either a Mima, grandma, or whomever it is that there's just something special about the relationship. And so I was preparing for doing a keynote in Paris for the Global Women in Tech organization.
Mhm.
it was about being a global force for change. That was a topic I wanted to speak about, and that's where I really decided. But I'm a storyteller. And so what the from the perspective I wanted to tell the story was from my personal journey of becoming a mom at 17. But then there was this parallel to my grandmother who got married at 17, right? And the more and more I started to dig into her story, I was going through the census and looking at all of various information about it. And you can imagine she was 90 plus years old, 96 years old, I believe, when she passed away. But I got stuck in this space of getting married at 17, me having a child at 17. And when I reflected on, I didn't know who the heck I was at 17. Now I'm responsible for another human being, her getting married. Now she's responsible for a husband, having children, which she had 6 children. And she also couldn't go to school past the 5th grade because her mother had a heart condition. And she was from Florence, South Carolina. And so I started to look at all of these things, and I became so overwhelmingly emotional that I kept having to rewrite the presentation because I couldn't get through that this is for her. And that everything I do is to honor the life that I felt like she would have loved to live, right? She loved fashion. She loved to travel. She was everyone's best friend. All of her grandkids, we all felt like she was our best friend equally. And that's what it was. It was, imagine being a kid and dreaming of wanting to be something someday, and then it all stops because your family dynamic, you've got to stop. You can't go to school because you've got to stay at home and help. And at that time, that was probably, no one's checking to see why the child isn't coming to school, right? In the Black community back in that time. And so just continuously think about who she would have become had she been given the opportunities that I've been given. So everything that I do, I constantly reflect on. I do this for you, Elsie Rouse. I do this to honor you, Elsie Rouse, because she was truly an inspiration to her entire family. And I just want to live the life that she didn't get a chance to live.
Oh, that's so awesome. You are fuzzy wuzzy inside when you speak about
Oh,
your grandma.
thank
I
you.
love that. I can tell that she meant a lot to you.
Yes.
And I know that you're a proud mom, a proud girl mom, I should
Yes,
say.
I am.
What
Hmm.
values are you hoping to pass down to your daughter through you both your personal journey and your brand?
Yeah. So the beautiful thing about the what I hope to pass to them, and I can see that it's already happening, is one is the importance of legacy and working together. And the Finally Free brand is the perfect example of that. When I working in corporate, your job is your job. You go to your job. But as an entrepreneur, like your daughter is right there working with you. You have an opportunity to build, the team that you want. And so I have my daughters work with me as well, whether it's in web development, operations, concepts, ideas, social media, etc. I have a mighty team of my children and other fabulous young amazing women who believe in what I do, but it's how we work together in order to create legacy. This business will be theirs. And I'm so confident in saying that I know I'm approaching this not as I'm slapping a logo or a label on a product, but I've intentionally designed the clothing in the Finally Free collection so that it's thoughtful, it's intentional, versatility, chic, with the hint of sexiness is important to me. And as I said, I take their ideas, we work through the ideas, but the back end of the business, making sure that they understand it so that they can carry the company forward. If in the event anything happens to me, I've now got this company that they can continue forward.
Right, that sounds good. I love that. So, what does being finally free look like in everyday life, and how can others begin towards their journey of being free?
Yeah, I would say finally being finally free. every day looks different for me, right? A lot of it starts with my mind, depending on whether or not I was able to get a good sleep, good night of rest, that always helps. But it's the resiliency. Like, how resilient am I in that moment? My mom used to always tell me that you've always been very resilient, Madupe. And so it's one thing to get knocked down, but then, like, what's your ability to get back up and keep fighting? Right. And so some days the knockdown might be something as simple as, Jesus, why am I so tired today? I'm just going to lay here in the bed. You got things to do, but then this, like, something creeps in your mind and tells you, like, you know what, let me sit here. Finally free means listening to yourself and listening to your body to be able to say, you know what, I do need to sit. I need to honor what I'm feeling in this moment,
Right.
or I'm feeling emotional today. Why am I feeling this? Trying to assess what's really going on. Because as much as we try to say, "Oh, I'm okay. I'm just having a bad day," sometimes it's not just a bad day, right? Like, there's an imbalance, whether it's an imbalance somewhere or something bothered you and you didn't realize it was bothering you. I'll tell you this: when I made the transition from North Carolina to Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in North Carolina, and so you would think if that's where you grew up, there's nothing wrong with going back home. But I started to notice whenever I would go back home to North Carolina, I wasn't as happy as I was when I was in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
There was this feeling that I'm moving backwards, but Atlanta represents forward for me. And so being free is being able to recognize that. So that's the first thing I would say to anyone is that if you think about what is it in your life at this very moment that you've just constantly cycled over, whether it's in therapy, with your family, your friends, something that continuously comes up. For some, it's overcoming generational trauma. For others, it's the burden of carrying the family's legacy and being great. Every single day, you feel this immense pressure of, I've got to be great.
I'm glad you said that because I was gonna ask you that this question, like, what challenges have you faced as a
Yeah.
woman of color in leadership,
Oh,
and how
wow.
have you overcome those challenges?
Yeah.
That kind of relates to what you were just talking about.
Totally. And finally free absolutely has to do with the corporate landscape, right? There's a conditioning that you're in, even when you're a woman, a Black woman, in corporate America, that you become conditioned to just simply saying, I'm okay. No, that's fine. That didn't bother me. One thing that I would constantly have to deal with is I have a very difficult name. Not very difficult, it's Madupe. It means I thank God. It's
Oh,
Nigerian, but in corporate America, if you can imagine, there were times I might get on a meeting and someone say, how do you say your name? I'm like, Madupe. And they're like, what? How do you say it again? Well, I'm going to call you Mo. Actually, you're not going to call me anything that I didn't give you permission to call me.
right,
Right. And
right.
so that's one of the things that in those spaces you
Mm-hmm.
learn how to navigate, but it's really paper cuts. You take the paper cuts. I remember, I'll give you one example. So I'm going to tell you this a story of something that I dealt with early on in my career. I remember being in an early sales executive program when I first started my career, and I was standing there with one of my friends, and who was also a Black woman. She's actually African, and someone comes up to us, another woman who's not African American or of color,
Mm-hmm.
and she says, "Oh my God, Madupe, like, why is your hair like that and her hair is like that?" And then makes the comment like, "Oh my God, you must be upset that Madupe's hair is like that."
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so when you think about having to deal with those types of comments, no matter how many times you say, like, oh, that's so annoying, those things start to cut and start to make you feel, why did that person feel as though it was okay to be able to say that, one, to me, but then what did it just do to my friend?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say finally free is, if I had to summarize it, it's no longer having to dim your light
Mm-hmm.
to make someone else feel grand. It's
Mm-hmm.
no longer accepting that you will accept conditioning yourself to work in environments where you don't feel safe,
Exactly.
but truly being able to say that I am who I am. I'm unapologetic about the gift and the light that God has given me. And when I'm in these spaces, I'm going to radiate. And if, my light burns you, that's your problem.
Right.
Another example of something that a coach said to me that I truly took to heart is that she said, you won't be everybody's preference.
Right.
Right. So, because in corporate, there's this feeling of like, I got to be liked. And this is how it
Yeah.
goes. If you're an executive, things are relationship based like they are in the world. But if you don't have the relationships in the rooms at the right level, there's no continuing to ascend.
And one thing about corporate is it's so hard because they want you to be a part of the clique, I guess. and,
Totally.
and I'm the type of person that I don't care to fit in. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
sometimes in corporate that can hurt your
Oh, it
relationship.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Because
Yeah. It will absolutely hurt your relationships. And not only that, it's those moments where you're walking in the rooms and you feel like, okay, did something happen and I didn't know about it? It's those types of things where you're in the room and you're like, why is it that when I got on, everybody is quiet now? So
mm,
now you're
so
in
yeah,
spaces where I don't have to worry about those things because I'm not walking in any space where I'm worried about anyone doing anything other than accepting me for who I am, which is Madupe, that walked into this room and was
yeah,
kind to you and greeted you with,
mhm,
care and love and respect, has nothing to do with me trying to take your spot.
right.
So it's a different feeling of just not waking up with this burden of proving yourself every day too. In entrepreneurship, I know there's a different type of proving yourself, right? That you can build a successful business and that you can see it through. Um, but in corporate, it's different. It's the click.
It's a
It's
clique.
the yeah. Mhm.
What's next for Finally Free Brand? Any new drops or exciting collaborations that you have coming up?
We're still a new brand, let me tell you though, but I will say this about the brand. I started working on this collection last July, and to be able to say that we are launched quality product in the market right now, available online at finallyfreebrands.com. Um, I'm proud of the milestone of being able to say we did it. I did it. I still can't believe I did it. I pinch myself all the
Right.
time. But I can tell you what's in the collection and why what's so wonderful about the collection is it's a line of hoodies. And the hoodies actually have a micro suede on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, I, as an executive, traveled all over the world. I still
Mm-hmm.
travel all the time because I love to travel. But I would never leave without a blanket. And you know this, sometimes on the planes, you don't know if it's going to be hot or cold. But if
Yes.
you are on that plane and it's freezing cold
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have a blanket or a hoodie or something to keep you warm, it's the most
Mis-
miserable plane ride ever.
You're
It's
miserable.
miserable. And
Yeah.
so what I did was the hoodie is not only designed with the micro suede inside, so it feels like a blanket. You're cozy, you're warm, you feel safe when you're in the hoodie. But in addition to that, the hood on the hoodie is elongated. So when you put your hood on, it
Mm-hmm.
covers you. So you are able to just sort of drown out and block out while you're sitting on that plane and lean over and take a nap or watch your show, whatever it is. Sometimes we don't want to have the conversations with the person beside us. Sometimes we do, but you can make the decision of how you function with your hoodie in that regard. The second thing I'll tell you is there are cargo joggers that have been designed. And what's so wonderful about these joggers, and I'm super excited for people to experience this, is the versatility in the jogger.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a clasp at the bottom of the jogger that has a button. So during the day, while you're out running your errands, or you're traveling through the airport, or you got to go to soccer with the kids, gymnastics, whatever it is you got to do, run errands, or hell, Netflix and chill. And you want to wear your pants wide leg and just be comfy and cozy. But let's say, for instance, you like, oh my goodness, I got to get to this event, or I'm going to head over to brunch. Let me put on a heel with this. So you
Mhm.
can now taper the pant with the clasp, and the pant goes from a wide leg to a tapered leg that looks very chic and sexy with your heels. And so I love them. And they're also, the length on the pants is just a bit longer.
Mhm.
Sometimes you can get sweats, and for me, I'm 5'10", so they'll dangle right at the middle of my shin sometimes. And it's so frustrating because I'm like, oh, this would have been a great outfit.
Mhm.
Um, and so they're a little bit longer in terms of that. But those small innovations that I
Mhm.
incorporated into the it's called the Freedom Set, the Freedom Hoodie, the Freedom Jogger. A couple other things I'll tell you about the collection is there's a bodysuit to match each color of black, ivory, as well as green. And the bodysuit is called the Vixen, because
Mhm.
who doesn't love a good bodysuit?
Right.
When whether it's you've got on your hoodie and now you want to take that hoodie off. Perfect example, I just traveled from Cancun. On the plane, it was cold. I had the hoodie on. When I took that hoodie off, I had on my bodysuit and my cute little pants. I was ready to go. Funny
And
thing about the bodysuit, go ahead.
what I was gonna say is, the girlies love versatility. So
We
hey,
love versatility. We love
right,
versatility. We love
right.
comfort, but we also
Mhm.
like to be sexy and feminine.
Yes,
And
yes.
it's the right amount of all of those things. And the beautiful thing about it is that, how sometimes you put on that bodysuit and it's pulling a little bit too much in
Right,
the back.
right.
If you got a seat back there, it's pulling a little
Yeah,
bit too much. And
yeah.
so although you adjust it a bit in the front, but you won't have that pull on your booty.
Mhm.
So I'm really excited, and it's 80s inspired because I love 80s pop music, all those things. Couple other things I'll tell you about. There's a t-shirt called the Jessica T. Again, very form fitted. I actually have on the men's tee called the Roger. And although it's men's, women can wear it. You can pair it with whatever you want, to make it kind of was it tomboy chic for when you don't want to wear something tight. And then there's hats. So I talked about my godson earlier.
Mhm.
His nickname was Boogie. And so I named the hats after him. So there's a Boogie Trucker
Um,
hat because we love a trucker hat.
yeah.
And there's also the Boogie Dad hat that has a silk lining on the inside. So for those of us who like to wear ball caps, putting them on and taking them off can sometimes pull at your hair a bit, especially if you're wearing things like clip-ins and all these things. But the
Yeah.
silk lining on the inside of the hat
Mhm.
protects your hair. So that's the beauty of that. So I'm really proud
I
of
love
this.
that. I love.
More dresses will come. So I've got a few more things, dresses, some additional things, a few custom pieces that will also be available this year. We're expanding, we're evolving. I'm also expanding into different categories, but I believe I am building a global brand that will resonate with everyone because we all have our journey to freedom to celebrate. And
Mhm.
then the last thing I'll say is that my goal is when people think of luxury athleisure, I
Yeah.
want them to shop me before you
Yeah.
go to Skims, before
Definitely
you go
shop.
to Lululemon or Aloe
Yeah.
or any of those other billion-dollar brands.
Mhm.
Give Finally Free a try, and I do
Definitely.
believe you'll be pleased with the price point as well as the quality.
Yes, definitely. Y'all give Finally Free a chance. We have to give small businesses a chance.
Yes.
To wrap up, give us your social media handles or any projects that you're currently working on.
hmm Yes. So please follow the Finally Free Brands Instagram. Visit the Finally Free Brands website to check us out there. And we're also on TikTok shop as well. So you can shop us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, but also follow me at MODUPE_C on Instagram. And you can also find me on LinkedIn because of my experience in corporate. I am also a culture transformation consultant to executives as well. So you can also find me there.
Okay, did you give us your website? You did?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Finallyfreebrands.com.
Finallyfreebrands.com, you guys. So thank you so much, Modupé, for hanging out with us for a little while and giving us your letting us know about your brand that you have coming out. We are excited about it. I think I'm gonna
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
love
I'm
the
excited for you to
I love
experience it.
about it. So I wish you so much success with your business. And thank you all so much for supporting Old Jackie O podcast. And we are out.